Bike and Pedestrian Committee meeting call to order. You have the attendance, Anya?
Already took it, yeah.
Great, so I'll move to the approval of the December 19th, 2024 minutes. Do I motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anybody have any comments? The minutes?
Aye. Nice and concise.
December minutes are approved. No member. What? Oh, there's Mary. No members of the public. Yeah, maybe they'll trickle in. So town department updates. Mary, do you have a sustainability and or forestry update for us? Oh, you're still muted.
Came in muted, I guess. Yeah, we had our big Sustainable Connecticut celebration last night at the museum. And just wanted to say thank you to you guys because you were a big part of the reason that the town got certified as gold and climate leaders. And just going forward, looking for the next, in 3 years, we have to recertify. So anything that you do, like the bike buses, or if you ever work with other towns, that would be very helpful to know about because we'll document that. And pictures are great. They love pictures. So that's Sustainable Fairfield. In terms of forestry,
Mary, sorry to interrupt. What's the time frame that the next certification will be? It starts
3
like
years,
January 1.
August.
So August 2024 through, or you mean this coming August?
No, in 3 years. So August 2027.
So I guess the time period you look back through the previous 3 years, or is it just?
It'd be much easier if we document as we go, because then we can do a better job of documenting. We usually recreate history, which is usually a lot harder and probably missing a lot of stuff. So as they come up.
You would look back 3 years?
Yes. So in 2027, in August of 2027, we would be resubmitting. So from now until then, as you do things, if we can document them, that would be much better because obviously you can't go back in time and take pictures.
Right.
With AI? Oh.
Pretend to do.
Great, thank you.
So one example I know is your bike buses, but then any other bike lanes or stuff. In terms of forestry, there's a statewide group. They've been working actually for many years, but they finally gave themselves a name. So they're called Connecticut Advocates for Trees, or CAT, because they wanted an acronym that you could say. So they're working on legislation to underground utility lines, working with Metro North, DOT, and the utilities to not cut mature, healthy trees. And if necessary, even replanting with the DOT. We're working with the landscaper for the Reading Road Rotary on plantings there. So we're going to make sure line of sight is most important, as well as, watering or lack of need of watering. And then we're working with TPZ commissioners to, which isn't so much a roadside thing, but working with TPZ commissioners on a zoning reg related to private trees. Replacement, if you cut down trees, replacement of substantial private trees so that the canopy stays. So those are the things that
And requiring Fairfield residents to replace trees they cut down. Did I understand?
Yeah.
If they pull a permit, a TPZ permit, it's in the works, so it doesn't exist. The reg doesn't exist at this point. But that's the plan. And the commissioners have been working with Jim Wen, and I don't think they've contacted Phil yet because we don't have verbiage, but for the attorney review. But I think he's also met with Bill Gerber, and he's been getting support to keep going. So.
Can I go back to just a question about, you mentioned the certification and you talked about bike buses and working with other towns. What does that mean, working with other towns? Like, do you have an example of?
I think I sent somebody something about Easton wanted to work with you all to see about doing like a bike path that connected Fairfield and Easton.
Oh,
The town planner there, if you want, I can resend you the planner, a name. So things like that, you get, to get to gold status, you have to work with other towns on certain things. so.
okay. Does anyone have that they?
Have it somewhere. Yeah, Mary, if you want to resend.
Oh, should I send it to Anya or Sarah or both?
Yeah, you can send it to both of us.
Okay. So, and if you want to work with someone other than Easton, that's fine too. I can connect you. Anything else?
I think there's gotta be opportunities in Bridgeport. It's right there.
Yeah, they're
me too.
definitely.
It's so dense, and now the CDOT supporting them, and I don't know if you were gonna talk about the thing that we went to later.
What was that whole
No,
thing
you didn't
about?
go to that. I
You're
went
gonna talk about
I'm
that.
gonna talk
I'm
about
gonna
it.
talk about the Metro Con. I was, what do you,
to- Sorry,
anyway.
I digress.
Sorry, anything
Okay,
else,
sorry.
Mary? You good?
That was it from,
Okay.
that relates to you all. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Santina, the update from the health department?
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to mention was my director, Sans Clary, and I met with the new grants coordinator that the town hired. His name is Greg. And one thing we spoke with him about was trying to find funding for improvements for pedestrian and cyclist. That was something for a bunch of years that we collaborated with the bike ped, and we were able to do some of the sidewalks and some of the bike routes. But unfortunately, we lost that funding. So we just expressed interest to him to kind of keep an ear out if he sees any of those grants. I know he's constantly looking for grants, with engineering, and those tend to be like bigger picture ones, but any of the smaller ones that can help make an impact, those are the ones that we'd be interested in.
And then,
So-
sorry, the one question I had, like the preventative health grant that you guys
Yep.
have received in the past that you haven't gotten recently, is that still one that's open that you can apply for funding for? Or is that,
So it's,
gone?
so they went to a 5-year cycle, and so we won't be able to apply for it, I guess, for another 3.5 years.
okay, and that is what you guys have used in the past to complete the sidewalk paths, is that right?
Correct. Yep, the preventative health block grant. Yep.
There is, I know, Sarah Roy had sent us AARP kind of expanded their grants. I know they're including things like demonstration projects, so that's something on my list I was gonna talk to Greg about.
Okay.
But I don't know if maybe there's something in that one that could be of note to you. So I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I am not. So if you want to send it over to me, I can take a look at it. That'd be great. Thank you.
I actually just saw an AARP one also. It was for like, the most was like 25,000. Are these more than that?
So the preventative health block grant, we used to use anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. So we can get quite a lot accomplished with a short amount of money.
Okay. Okay, I'll send that to you after this.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Sarah. And that's it for me.
Right, awesome. So no engineering and no police. I have a couple engineering updates I'm gonna mention in my report, so we can jump to that. First is demonstration activities. We're moving forward on one at Fairfield Woods Road and Stilson. So that was approved. Mega presented that to the police commission on the 8th, and that was approved. So that still needs to go through DPW before they have a timeline, but essentially it's gonna be some sort of peanut shaped roundabout at that intersection. Because that's a lot bigger and gets a lot more traffic, they really need to, instead of just using cones, like buy bollards and probably like center line hardening strips and rub, so it's gonna be a little bit more involved of a project, but once the town kind of buys those supplies, they'll be able to move them around for subsequent. Fairfield Woods Road and Stilson.
There's also a cross street that comes in.
Yeah, I
there,
think it's
so
Woodbridge.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
That's right.
So they're gonna do a test with without tearing up the street.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
That's where the bus sits and waits.
Yes, yeah. And then, was on the Metro Cog, they have a safety planning subcommittee. But it was cool, Mega actually presented the Reading Road roundabout, to the Metro Cog folks. And then, everybody kept referring to Fairfield as a model for the region. So it's like, which is cool, you know, it's a first step. There were a lot of interest on roundabouts, how they demoed it. Mega had some cool drone footage and a video that kind of showed how the demonstration worked. And so that was pretty cool. And then she also mentioned on that call that they're looking to do a demonstration project potentially at the Bronson and Sturgis intersection. So if you guys are familiar, that's a similar Y, kind of like Reading and Dunham, where the sight lines are really bad. If you're coming north on Bronson, because Sturgis kind of cuts across. So engineering's gonna look into the feasibility and design for that intersection. So it's great that these are starting to really move forward.
One engineering thing, I know they did the whole thing going down Round Hill Road where they put sidewalks on the one side of the street, so. And they have, you know, the cuts and everything, but I was sitting there waiting at the stop sign the other day to get up onto 95, and I look, and as it comes down, the sidewalk comes down, there's a cut which would take a blind person right into Kinney Drive, and there's no connection on the other side. It's dirt and bushes and weeds, and it's kind of like, you don't want them, you want them to know that that's the road.
I would suggest taking a photo and sending it to Bill and Megan.
I meant to do it, it was getting dark out and running
I
late.
agree, that sounds
Like,
optimal.
in retrospect, maybe we should have, you know, yeah, it literally is the end of the line, so.
I think they're required to do the ADAs at anything, but yes,
It kind of does make it's
yeah.
actually dangerous. I will do that, I'll send that to Bill.
Micro grant application, so the Connecticut Active Transportation micro grants are opening up again. The big change is bike racks are now in scope, so it just kind of, for those of you who don't know, that the micro grant application was really for like bike helmets, bike racks, adaptive bikes. And when we were looking at the needs of Fairfield, it was kind of limited in what we could potentially use it for. But one of the things that came up with the schools was that they could use bike racks. And so I think I'm gonna reach out through the PTA to see if there's a need, and if there is, we can apply for that. We did apply for the December funding, I think, for the education campaign. So we have to use the money before we can apply again, but I guess you can get up to 2 awards throughout the year, so.
Can you remind me again, is this for the town or could each school apply for one?
Unclear. We didn't really get a good answer. But if we apply through the town, then we can use it at the schools or at other locations in town if people. The one thing that's weird, I guess, is installations not included, just the actual
Rackets.
rack, so.
Who
We
follows?
have to talk to I think the town probably, but we have to confirm that they would
You're talking
help with the
need to be installed.
Well, like put into the ground, you know, a lot of them are immovable.
I'm visualizing the ones like around Sherman over here where they're just the kind of metal, just
Yeah,
Without anchors.
plop them wherever, move them as needed. That's wrong. And
no, that's not wrong. That's one type of
One
bike
type,
rack. I
okay.
guess there's many that also
Got it.
attach. So I guess it's determining what the capacity is and figure out what rack it is, but a lot of them are.
Who fills out the grants?
So we would work with the new grant coordinator,
Okay.
that's Santina and Greg.
I see Mary's hand is up. I don't know if that's on purpose or not.
Mary?
I just wanted to note that installing bike racks is also something for sustainable CT. So just wanted to make a note of that if you do that. And I had talked with the town about, I think it was Christine Brown, about like getting some in at town buildings, and they say they have them down at DPW. So,
Well, they
so
have
Have racks.
that's what they told me. I just
So
couldn't
we
get
may
anybody in
have
the-
Yeah, we, with one of our grants, we bought a bunch of racks. I can check with DPW and see if there are any extras or any that weren't installed. But there were a bunch installed at, all of the beaches.
Okay, 'cause I know some of the schools need them too. So if there are ones that are just hanging out, we should.
Yeah,
use
I
them.
mean, not enough. If there may be one or two extra, but I'll email DPW now and see if any of the ones that we bought through the grant a few years ago. So I'll check on that now.
Okay, great.
So I just to finish up, there's a whole checklist related to CT rides. So it's not just bike, it's ped, it's also, mass transit and all sorts of things. And I worked with Sarah Roy on it, and we felt we could get things, and the town didn't act on them, but we have 3 years now, so it's in quite the crunch. But I'll send, I already sent you the contact info for Justin and Easton. I'll send you the link to the information on the CT ride stuff for sustainable CT, so you can see the checklist and see if there's anything you want to work on.
Great. And then my last update is there's a social networking event for transportation road nerds in New Haven. It's on January 26th at 3 p.m. at Trinity Bar. If anybody's interested, it's a good time to just kind of see what other folks in other parts of Connecticut are doing. And that's it for me. Anya, can I turn it over to you?
You said January 26th, right?
Yes, I think it's Sunday at 3 p.m.
Sure, what is this section called? Is it committee reports?
Yeah, I think, do you want to just show the,
It's fine, and just for my notes.
oh yeah, it says committee reports, but to introduce
Yeah.
a new tool.
Yeah. I will not ask how many of you have looked at it. But I will say, I put together a Google Docs spreadsheet. And what it's meant to do is basically just track our progress and all the priorities that we discussed at the last meeting. And so there'll be a column for every month, and I'd appreciate it if everyone put in either what they did last month, if it's not much, what they plan to do next month, maybe both, depending on the status of what you're working on, if it's relevant, like, if you're doing bike rodeo, it's not anytime soon, then maybe your note could be this month, I plan to kick off the planning, just so we kind of know what's
Okay.
happening with that.
Is it and that's an email I missed? I
It's okay, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm just looking for an email from me. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's a new thing. I'll send it out. I'll plan to send it out every month.
Is this your fabulous sheet?
That is my fabulous sheet. Can somebody zoom in, whoever, oh,
Yeah,
you
that's
projecting,
fine.
Alex?
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, so there we go. If you scroll up, we can see there's the project, there's the owner. Right now, I have 2 columns for January. I have an update column and a needs column. The idea is update is basically like the status, maybe I should call it status. Needs is like anything you need from this group or others that maybe you want to discuss at the meeting, or we should answer. So anything that we can help to get things going, because, don't feel like any of you are doing it alone. We're all together. You're just kind of leading the effort. So those are the 2 things. And I was thinking that, when we create our agenda for the month, we can also just skim that needs column real quick. If anyone filled something in, add it to the agenda so we can anticipate the discussion around those items.
Great.
Any technical questions on this list? It should be open. I guess one other thing I'll add is I'm gonna export it every month after our meeting into a printable format. I made sure I can do it and it works. And we'll be attaching it with our notes. So even though we're doing this like outside the meetings, this feels like something that should be available to the public. So we'll attach it to our notes and it'll be on our website. So anything you put there, just keep in mind, it's gonna be completely publicly seen by anyone who's interested in this topic. So any questions about the spreadsheet, or recommendations how to make it better, more usable, I'll take it all.
It's a lot of work you did there.
That's great. Yeah.
But it's,
So it just brings focus to what sometimes just gets
Yeah.
out in the ether that just doesn't go anywhere. So that's great.
yeah,
Putting
if
something down.
this goes well, this will actually be great for Mary, in her goal. This is actually exactly what Mary was asking for. I don't know if you could hear us, Mary. So there you go. We can use this at the end of the year to see, what we worked on. We could add things if there's other projects that pop up. And have those here. So at the end of the year, it'll help us see what we accomplished. So that actually should also help with the annual report.
Yes.
Amazing.
Right, you have to roll it up.
Yeah,
Not-
so put as
not
much
something
detail in
recreated.
there as you think is necessary for us to see progress, for sustainable gold status, for our annual report, we'll just track this month by month. Okay.
We got it, Mary.
Oh, pictures. I guess this doesn't have pictures. We'll have to find a different way to have pictures. I created some other Google Docs, like I think a couple of us did. Alex created some others. I created some others that were specific to my project. So I just linked to those. So if you want to post pictures somewhere, you could also link to those from here because it's not really a great format for adding pictures directly. Okay, that's it for the spreadsheet. Should we go through individual updates?
Yes. Do you want to
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, I'll start, and I guess just one other cabiet is, actually, can we keep it there? We can use it for- yeah. One other thing I'll add, one other purpose of the spreadsheet that I forgot to mention is we were chatting kind of offline with Sarah and Amy and I about the best way of tracking progress, and I originally suggested, oh yeah, we should do round the table updates. And then Amy pointed out, there's a lot of us, and if we all do around the table updates on what we're doing every single month, that's gonna take up a ton of time. So ideally, if you put things here and you don't need anything from the group that month, we'll just read it, or if it's something we can do between meetings, something to review and leave you feedback. This should allow us not to do round the table from everybody every single month. So only on the months you need stuff from the group. So this month we'll do round the table because not a lot of people saw it. But next month I'm hoping fill it in and then we won't bug you unless it's relevant. Okay, that's it. That's right. That's it for my spreadsheet. So starting from I guess I'll start with mine.
I'm gonna start with the active transportation meeting you went to.
Oh, yeah, that's not a project priority.
I know, that's why.
But I'll add that, sure. Oh, gotta find my picture, hold on a second, I wanna find my pictures. Oh, but I'm not projecting, anyway, so CDOT has a new group called Active Transportation, so there's a team that's under Connecticut Department of Transportation. And their goal is basically, what I view is do all the things that I think everybody in this group loves. So they're about really putting in infrastructure, especially focusing on state roads in their case, they're the state DOT. Adding sidewalks, adding bike lanes. They had a number of different ways to categorize different pedestrian and bike friendly level of infrastructure and who it's designed for. I'm not gonna go super deep in it. I'll just say, if you go to CDOT Active Transportation, if you just Google that, they have the site and they basically have everything that I saw in person, which was just a bunch of poster boards that you can comment on. They have that online. So if you wanna really get into the details of what the terminology and the goals, you can go there. For the most part, I thought it was for me, I thought it was a little high level. So I thought great, you wanna do this. How do we make this happen? There was nothing about this town will get this or this city will get this. It was nothing that specific. It was just kind of setting the tone for what they want the CDOT to focus on in the years to come under the leadership of, I forget his name every single time. Somebody help me. CDOT leader, Garrett Ucalito. I always want to call him Cicilito. I just put his name, but now I can't, yeah. It's Ucalito, Garrett Ucalito. Anyway. There was a video of him talking about how awesome active transportation is. So it's cool. It's exciting that they are really trying to change the culture of what CDOT wants to bring. And so you can read about that online, but there's so far no real specifics about how they're gonna roll it out of where. They anticipate, I think they said August-ish timeframe, maybe September, where there'll be another public kind of road show where there will be more specifics. So I'm eager for those. It was fun to see. A lot of people came. I would say it was in Bridgeport, and so unsurprisingly, most people who showed up were from Bridgeport. They're doing a bunch of these throughout the state. This was the closest one to us, and it was cool because they were collecting a lot of feedback about their ideas and what do you see? And everyone who showed up was clearly a biker or a walker. You could tell they were taking all these surveys, the car friendly stuff. There was one chart. I should have.
We can send it around.
I took photos, but I think I actually deleted them. It's funny.
You know what?
It was full.
Yeah, I'll tell you, sorry, just give me 2 seconds because I actually put it, for those of you who are on our road safety WhatsApp, check it out. I put all the photos from all the posters there. So there was one that I found really funny. There you go. So I'm sorry, I can't project. I apologize to everyone's screen, but people got to put stickers on things like safe crossings, parking, bicycle travel, vehicle travel, transit amenities, pedestrian sidewalks, public amenities, and green areas, right? And so the ones who got the least stickers were parking and vehicular traffic. So, not traffic, travel. So like you can tell this wasn't,
A group.
yeah, these.
It wasn't in Detroit. No.
Yeah, this wasn't, this was very, very friendly crowd. I loved being in it, but we have to acknowledge that rolling things like that is definitely gonna have resistance to people who are more car centric, but it was fun to see a group who was very much focused on bike infrastructure. Okay, I think that's all. If you want, and I lost my notes doc. Oh my God, I have so many tabs open. If you want more info, just go and find it on their website.
Honestly, I think if we wait a few months, there will be more substantive.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, they said they're gonna do another road show. I can't remember if it was late summer, early fall.
I didn't know what the time frame was, but yeah.
Oh, I asked them. That's what
That's
they
smart.
said. And I was like, when's the real stuff? I was also interviewed for, there was a local public radio station there. And so they said they'll feature me the next morning, but I never found it. So I have no idea. I was like, I don't know. Somewhere in the abyss, somebody might have heard me on some Hartford public radio, but I missed it. It's kind of a bummer because I'm a big listener of NPR. I've never been interviewed by NPR station. That's it.
Okay, great.
Should I go on the spreadsheet now? I'll start with mine because I'm talking and then I'll hand it out. So there were three things that three things. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna talk about all of them. The first thing I wanted to focus on, mostly because I'm really passionate about it, is I really want to have a better bike routes. I'm using the word routes as a very general term of a safe way for a bike to get from point A to point B. So I'm not specifying whether it should be bike lane or shearers or whatever. I'm just saying a safe way to get from point A to point B. So my first step was to create, can you actually click on it, Alex? Can you create
Sure.
a link? What's the critical points? Let's see. I think you should have access. Yeah, it looks like you do. I guess we probably don't have time to go through all of these, but I would appreciate it if everyone here took 5 minutes to look at this list that I put together based on the bike route we already have and some other ideas I had, and tell me if you think anything here is either superfluous or if I'm missing something important. But these are points that, if we're gonna start with a core bike route, what are we trying to connect? So.
Did you look at one of the first things I looked at when I came on the committee was there was a consultant that did that whole plan. Have you seen, do you know,
The Pen master plan
Oh,
probably,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
2013, I think.
did you look at that?
Specifically?
as well?
No, not for this. Was there
Okay,
things around this there?
I would definitely look at it.
There are some forward-looking things in that plan or
Okay.
related to bike routes.
Yeah, it's really, the whole plan is super good. I was gonna do all this, I'm gonna get in there, and then I read this master plan, I'm like, damn, this is it's really
lot.
good.
Yeah, and Sandy
So-
will be updating for us soon.
Yes. Wait, you were gonna
I
what?
mean, the whole committee is gonna be
Yeah.
updating it.
Okay,
That's one
update
of
that.
his- That's what that's, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Anyway, it's useful and it might, there might be overlap with what you're doing here, but definitely check that out.
I will take a look there. And otherwise, I based this combination of the bike routes that are out there. So I looked up the bike route that was formed by this committee 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't remember how long ago. And I saw what they're connecting. And so I took the things that I thought made sense. I didn't include all of them. Some of them I didn't think were worthwhile. So this is kind of my version of it. So, oh yeah, I put a link to it there, forgot. That's the bike route that I used as inspiration. So this exists right now, and right now it's basically all share roads. So when I'm looking at this bike route again, I really want it to be safe and protected, not just share roads.
It is all.
In the United
You guys
States
know
somewhere?
that Jeff Randolph has been working
Yes.
on Complete streets.
Yes,
So
we
maybe
connected Sandy.
We're
which-
gonna have
Oh, okay.
to have a working session on that. Cool.
Well, you're not behind. We just didn't include everybody and everything, just try to keep it more manageable. But we could include you.
But I think Jeff sent it to you, right?
Yeah, it did. I'm like halfway through reading it.
It's a lot.
It's long and yeah, I got it.
I think the standards have changed a little bit since it was last looked at, and the Complete Streets has just moved a lot forward in the last few years, so.
Okay, you know what? I gotta get moving through my things. It's already 7 o'clock. So real quick, the next update doesn't really require anything from you guys. It's just an FYI. So as I mentioned before, there's currently a town of Fairfield Safe Streets like public campaign. So the idea is, that sound is really annoying. It's getting louder, right? The idea is to get public awareness for driving slower, watching for pedestrians. So getting people to drive more carefully, getting pedestrians to know about best practices, getting bikers, et cetera. And so we've been working with Lisa, who's our town communication person. She's leading a kind of a working group. Sarah and I are both on that committee. I won't go into all the details. That's happening. I'll spare you the minutia. And then lastly, for the bike and walk days, I'm not doing anything right now, but I figured next month I'll probably start planning for the bike buses in the spring. The main thing that I think I have to do this year, because for the most part, these are pretty self-contained, self-run, is talk with a Fairfield PD and get them to really rethink some of the routes that they approved recently. So the Stratfield route was just untenable. It was terrible. It was not fun. They were trying to get us off the main streets and it resulted in like lots of super steep hills. Kids were falling and walking, and we tried to argue against it before it happened, but we lost. So we tried it. It was awful. And so I think for Stratfield in particular, to do it again, we need to go back to our original route. Like if we can't get it approved, I don't think it'll happen. We can't do the route that we were approved for last in the fall. It was just awful. It was not.
How many different, was it just Stratfield or have we done it with
Yeah.
different schools?
Riverfield started.
Stratfield was the original bike
Yeah.
bus, and that's run for a couple of years with route changes.
Yeah.
And then OHS, Osborne Hill did one, last spring, and then Riverfield did one in the fall. And it was, painful to get our route approved as well. But it was not a painful ride, like the kids had a
Yeah,
great,
you guys ended up.
had a great experience.
I think it would be great to.
Approval by who, the school?
No, the police,
Or
no, the school was,
Police or?
yeah, the school was very much on board. And it was hard to get a route that the police were comfortable doing, but Riverfield ended up with a fine route and it was great. I hope that they will approve the same route going forward, so that's an open question. But it worked for the kids and it worked for the school, and it was flawless. Like the police did an amazing job, like really, like above.
They
and-
went.
It was
they had
like,
so much police.
it was, I think
That
probably
part
half
was
the
kind of
police
cool.
force was there. It was like, but it was it was really well, like, it was really great. Because we started at the library and we crossed Post Road and went up Umpqua and then up Mill Plain and the kids, I was worried that the kids weren't gonna be able to handle the Umpqua Hill, but they did. And they were really proud of themselves that they did it too. So it was a great day.
I think, the more we can expand this to, other schools.
It's a really great awareness thing too. Like if there were, safe routes, more kids would be able to actively get to school.
Yeah.
So anyway.
The other day, I was coming down Umpqua and I made the left on Barlow to go south of the university. And as I'm waiting for the light to make a right onto North Benson, all of a sudden out of my corner of my eye, a young lady, she could have been either going to Ludlow High School or to the middle school. And she came down North Benson, made the right, and she was going along on, and she stood out because, you don't see kids. She had no reflectors, but it was morning, but she had a nice pink
She's on
jacket
fire.
on, so, but she was, so bright on her own, it was sort of like, she stood out like, wow. So she bought into the idea. Parents did.
Should we do Do you guys wanna go next since you have a hard stop at 7:30?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have much to report or a bike rodeo event. I'll have more to report next month.
Do you want us, okay, so I'm just gonna update your column while we're here. Where am I? Hold on. There we go.
Can I piggyback on that for a
Sure.
second, just because I was at the Sustainable Fairfield party last night. So congrats again, Mary. I don't know if you can hear me. But, you know, because Sustainable Fairfield got gold. And I was chatting with a woman named Daphne Dixon, who's the transportation committee person for Sustainable Fairfield.
Yeah.
And she's talking about doing an EV expo.
Which they've done the
That's
past.
used to be a part of that weekend's event. There was a period of time where they did this over at the in the parking, in the shopping center where Bob's was. Remember when we actually, they, several I don't know who they were, but a lot of EVs were coming out and demonstrated. You know, the nearest Tesla dealership came out and a bunch of others came, just for show and tell. And I think they were there last year. I couldn't tell you where they're from.
I was just wondering if we could kind of combine forces to just talk about all the different ways one can use, you know, do sustainable transportation.
Mhm.
I mean, we could do
I
other,
just want, and that would, it would bring people, it would kind of, more people would come to one thing because of the other and vice
Right.
versa. There
It's a
would
bigger
just
event.
be.
Yeah, this thing's like button soup. Everyone, it's, you get to get it started and all things start to kind of glom onto it. And it makes the
So-
event bigger. So, yeah.
Anyway, so in speaking with Daphne, I said I would mention it tonight as an idea, so.
Okay.
just so I know, so for February, what do you plan to do for next
Well,
month?
confirm the date and the event, and then also confirm the various stakeholders. So last year I waded in, trying to find out, we have a contact with the New Haven Health, who provided the helmets that we used to outfit the kids. And then we worked with the police department that ran some sort of the bike rodeo itself. And they have experience doing that and they had the equipment to do it, and the personnel could speak authoritatively about that. So I was fitting kids with helmets. I think Steve was with us at that point, and we did, I think, 2 or 3 dozen kids. It's kind of client or weather dependent. You know, nice. The 2 years before that, we did it on a beautiful Saturday morning, and there was, we did it 100 kids.
Speaking of helmets, I think I would consider getting, I don't know if they're already purchased or not, but if they're gonna be purchased, I would think about getting slightly higher quality helmets. Cause we got one of those
Mhm.
helmets for the kids and they were just,
It was worth every penny you did not pay for.
yeah, well, I wanna
I hear you.
give out something that could be used for a year, you know, at least a
Just
year,
wait.
that's comfortable. I felt this was like, these were so poorly made, like my kids just couldn't wear them. We ended up having to buy new helmets. So I
I
don't know,
didn't
maybe-
have a lot of control over that. They were being donated and bought through New Haven Health, but I'll filter that
I don't
out.
know if it's something, just at least more adjustments, like these were just like, it is what it is. Most modern
The
helmets
shell.
have that like adjustment in the back that makes it a little more comfortable.
It's a lot more, yeah. I don't know enough about that, but
I'm,
I'm sure
I,
that's a lot more expensive. Actually, our helmets did have an adjustment thing, the ones we did last year.
did they, this
Yeah.
might have been one I got 2 years ago. I assume
Could have
it's the
been,
same.
could have been.
Anyway, something to think about.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, well, I got that link that you sent me, thank you, and I've been going on to that, there's so much stuff on there.
Stuff I
Oh
know.
my God, is, you know, so what I wanna do is finish going through, trying to get a sense of what's there. And then,
You may wanna ask Mega, because I feel like she said at one point that the Yukon database is behind and,
That's what it was,
oh,
yeah.
okay. But so I don't know if there's something like our police, I think Santina was gonna, ask, I think you did follow.
I
she
mean,
did
it's,
send
what
us-
I'm trying to say, it's the police departments send,
Well, they have that new tracker now that they post. I don't know if you've seen like their like month at a glance. They posted on the Fairfield Police Department posted on social media. And I think what Santina said is they're not tracking the difference between like if somebody gets hurt, if they're a pedestrian or not, it might be in the notes.
Yeah.
I think there's Santina, I don't know who you were speaking with in PD, but maybe Tom can talk to them directly to see if there's a way to kind of filter that information going forward.
Yeah, I was speaking with Mike Stahl. So Tom, I can connect you and Mike together.
cool.
And then we won't need to wait for the lag for UConn to.
Yeah, but just to get even just, you know, the nomenclature and the,
Yep.
you know, the references and that they look at everything.
I'll let you go last if that's.
Yeah, that's fine.
Adrian?
I don't have anything to say. I really have more questions to ask. So I don't know if this is the time and place. Maybe we can meet separately.
Yeah,
I'm happy to get started on that, but I need a little bit more insight about what I should be creating.
Okay, yeah, let's talk offline.
Sure, maybe we
Now
can
it's
find a
Maybe the
time.
action is connecting with SM and AM to understand requirements. You said what you'll be creating, right? Okay.
Yeah, for
That's
the,
an update.
for, like, basically, I think it's just, I think what I'm creating is either expectations or suggested standards for public engagement for each of these new initiatives, you know, so that people know about them. I think that's what,
Yeah.
I wonder if we should, we might also
But-
want to include like Lisa,
Yeah,
maybe see how we could support her.
yeah,
We can talk about it. I think it might be
let's
brainstorming.
brainstorm.
yeah, so I'm happy to chat with you guys, but I don't want to take time.
And Sandy.
Yeah, so as we may have kind of been talking about right now, there's a bike and safety master plan. No, bike, what was it? Bike and pedestrian
Headmaster plan.
master plan that was issued in 2013. And that's the document that I've been charged with trying to update. But at the same time, Jeff Randolph has developed this very large document having to do with the Complete Streets program
Yeah, I would say complete streets policy.
policy. And that's actually mentioned in the 2013 document as something that should be forthcoming. So it's taken a while. But there clearly needs to be coordination between the two and just, you know, make sure there aren't inconsistencies. And then the engineering department, Mega, has been developing this, it's called a right-of-way manual, but it's really sort of setting the appropriate standards for any type of bike and ped improvements. And again, all three documents need to be consistent, and it's gonna take a little bit. I've gotten into it, and I was having some offline emailing with Anya, and I am gonna definitely coordinate with Jeff, and if you wanna be part of it, I'll let you know. Okay?
If you need me,
Yeah, no
I
worries.
just wanted to kick things off.
Sure, no, I get it. No problem. I like Jeff. We'll definitely be pursuing that. And the other thing, I think Alex was just mentioning, there are graphics from the 2013 report. Do we know if those exist anywhere that I'd be able to? I'd rather not have to reinvent the wheel, but I'm also not sure whether I have the software that would
Bill,
work
I mean,
to.
Bill Polak would be.
Yeah, I think we can connect you with
Do you know
Bill,
Bill,
Bill Pollock.
he's one of the original bike and ped committee members and friend of ours. Well, we can connect you.
You said it was developed by a consultant?
I thought it was.
I
I
don't know. It was,
I think it was in.
I think it was actually developed by this original committee.
Oh,
when it
really?
first Started, that was one of the first, like,
Yeah.
big, one of the first, yeah, big accomplishments.
Yeah, it's good.
It was
Yeah.
still coming together when I joined and came to fruition as far as they were gonna take it, let's see, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Bill doesn't have it, he may know who does.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working with Alyssa and Bill.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in there, though, you know, recommendations, we should do this and we should have this in these places. And so I think part of this effort is gonna be doing kind of an inventory of what was done and what still has to be done. So it's gonna take a little time.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, looking at that and then looking at the priorities for the year from earlier, you know, obviously just having joined, I was wondering the same thing, like what of these have been done? and which of these are still relevant. I'm guessing many of them still are, so.
Sure.
They are, because I did the same thing when I joined.
Yeah.
As I looked at
I'm
that,
like-
and I was like, oh, wait, we should be looking at this.
Yeah,
for
just
what we're
start
doing going
knocking
forward.
2 of these off a year, and that's
We
pretty
kind
good.
of have to take a few steps backwards to then go forwards, so. Okay. Awesome. Alex, we turn over to you, so,
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I think,
In the next couple days.
your 2 updates are more brainstorming and involving the committee to go forward, so I'll just turn it over to you, but
That's the
Sure.
last major thing, right, that we were discussing today?
yes, this is the last
Perfect.
topic.
You know you have a lot, so you have the last
Yeah,
15 minutes. to-
Okay, cool. So one of the 2 things that I volunteered to take on was develop a perspective on e-scooters and e-bikes. So the way I chose to approach this was I started a document, and this is where I could use some input. But and then this has been evolving since I first sent it to you, Anya and Sarah. But I wanted to start with like, what's the goal? Like, which I don't know, honestly. And so I put this together for reactions from the committee and for other people to provide some ideas. But what I understood is for us to come up with a perspective on scooters and e-bikes for the town. And as part of that, like sub bullets being like, all right, well, what is the difference between an e-bike versus a moped? This is possibly for our own benefit or for those who don't know in planning. Outline the various classes / types of e-bikes, because they're different types of e-bikes and scooters, and any differences in legislation that currently exist for the state and beyond. Positive attributes like, okay, what makes these a good thing for consideration? The negative attributes.
Sorry.
Obviously things, lack of regulation, safety, et cetera. Any data that we can find. We're talking about like a perspective on scooters and e-bikes for the town.
Sure.
And I'm just going over what the goal is of what we want to accomplish through this. So any data we can get on accidents or anything else. And then opportunities, that we see for infrastructure changes, et cetera. Does anyone have any reactions to like kind of or any thoughts on like what this thing is beyond this?
I almost see in my imagination, like when you get to the Medicare age and you gotta compare plan N and G and K, and literally you out of your mind. But it's something like that, e-bike, scooter, and legal, not legal.
Okay, yeah.
Requires insurance, doesn't, just sort of a grid.
Yeah.
Because when we've had the police here, what they always end up saying was, there's no laws on this stuff, in essence, yeah, we like it, but we can't, and there's a lot of, there's no legislation, there's no regulation for a lot of this stuff. It could take a lot forever to catch up, so, I mean, that's something we obviously have no control over, but I think part of really the groundwork of this, of developing a scooter and e-bike policy is the definitions and what the lay of the land, what it is or what they are. And then, maybe you bring in, some state legislators at some point, and not that they don't know, but, and enlist their help to say, we really did, look right here, here's a big gap right here where there's no helmets, no insurance, nothing on this particular, scooters, let's say. And, because we can only recommend something that's in recognition of what it is.
Can I just take a step way back and go, what are we, what is the purpose of concentrating any of energies around this? I come back to what the goal here, to my mind, is to proactively set up rules that will promote safety and utilization of these alternate modes of transportation. So we're all about alternate modes of transportation. We're also about safety. And those two, trying to figure those, and then everything else that you listed there, which is fantastic and great, but it gets a little more granular and into the weeds.
Yeah.
It's like all this needs to go back and serve the overall, point, which is how do we promote alternate modes of transportation while also maintaining safety? For just one, 14-year-old getting nailed by an SUV away from having this be a big issue in town. And
I think other towns have had.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
coming,
yeah.
right?
But it's a state, these are, motor vehicles
But I like that.
and it.
You know what I mean?
It's up to the
Totally,
state.
Yeah.
Because everything, your way to evaluate all the activity you're gonna do would come out of focusing back on that.
Yeah.
I don't want to just do rules for rules' sake.
So just to add on, and I think I'm saying what you are, but tell me, like, ultimately, something is either gonna be considered a bike or it's gonna be considered a car. I mean, it either has to go in one part of the road or has to go in the other, where there is an option, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe saying this, this feels more like it should be in the category of a car, and this feels more like, it feels like a bike, and kind of,
Whether a car or a bike, they're supposed to be on the same side of the road.
yeah, but,
Wheels on the right, legs on the left.
yeah, but there are places where we wanna put in bike routes, right?
No, I know, but just.
So I'm just
you said
saying,
be on
like,
the other side.
As we are contemplating bike routes, just identifying what. Cause I imagine some will feel more like once and.
Yeah, and
what
I
their
mean,
speed-
as
what
we
their
get
maximum speed.
into this too, a little more, like, I've actually been able to go through a lot of, like, I laid out a bunch of actions, that support the bullets above, and I'll walk through the high level of that. And in doing that, I was able to add different tabs, like, and I got feedback from Anya, for instance, like, what is the difference between an e-bike and a moped? What constitutes each? So like, I defined, all right, this is a moped based on like legislation and everything, both in Connecticut and more broadly. This is what an e-bike is.
I
And
was
they're,
looking at this, the other tabs didn't exist yet.
yeah, they didn't, no, I added all this. So like, there are different classes of e-bikes. And then, like, just knowing, because I have a 14-year-old who's an avid biker, like the kind that you read about on Moms of Fairfield biker, like, there are a lot of people that ride electric motorcycles that, kind of, you might consider them e-bikes, but they're not, because they go 50 miles an hour and they don't have pedals. So like, there are very clear lines of distinction.
Bikes are not mopeds?
It doesn't, you can call them what they are, but like, a moped or an electric motorcycle requires that you be licensed.
Yeah.
Like, an e-bike, has 3 different classes, class 1, 2, and 3. And really what those are like, class 1's pedal assist. Every one of them has a functioning set of pedals. That's a key difference. So they need to pedal. And the class 3 is the fastest, where only with pedal assist, it can't exceed 28 miles an hour. But the rest of them can have throttle, but the throttle can only take you up to 20. And then pedal assist can take you to 28, if that makes sense. So there's clear definitions for these things that exist today, which is good.
So I have a really high, I want to step back again, just, I want to make sure you're putting your efforts into the right place. And so originally, and this doesn't have to be what it is now, but originally when I had this idea of we should develop perspective, I basically thought it would be the short spiel when people start bashing on e-bikes and mopeds on social media. We have perspective and say, well, they actually belong here. And so you could always tell your kids they're supposed to do this instead of that. Or I know you don't like the bikes, but they actually have every right to be there. This is an alternative, whatever it is. I wanted to have some perspective, but depending what people post on, we kind of have a united front about how to respond, which is actually much less than what you've done here. But hey, I'm not opposed to what you did. It's very helpful. So if we're looking at this more as developing a policy, then I would say before you do much more work, we should talk to PD, like, or talk to somebody in the town, I don't know.
That's been
Maybe
done.
Bill-
So just two things about that. So I talked to the police department
Okay,
and
what do
the,
they want? Like, what's helpful to them?
so my ask to them was like, I wanted to know the department's experience around e-bikes and scooters, any data that they had about incidents or injuries, and any ideas that they had on policy, policing strategies that they're currently using, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I was directed to a guy, well, I don't know what his name, Sergeant Mike Com.
Okay, yeah.
And okay, you know him? So anyway, so incidents, you know, so muck, is that how you guys pronounce the system of whatever? The reporting system here, this thing?
I've never seen
Oh,
that.
I have to, yeah, I'm not familiar.
Oh, all right. Well, so there, it doesn't include right now any information on accidents or incidents related to e-bikes and scooters. He expects that this will change, you know, when it's updated by the state. His anecdotal thing is like, there haven't been any major incidents, thank God, with e-bikes. You know, and this is true, what he's saying, as far as policing strategy and law, you know, most of the riders are juveniles. They can't be issued like a simple, like a traffic citation, because that becomes a juvenile summons where the kid and the parents need to go to court, which is not a good thing, you know, like nobody wants to put anyone through that. So they don't do anything. They don't enforce it that way. Connecticut treats e-bikes and scooters the same as standard bicycles. So there are no age restrictions and a license isn't required. Helmet laws do apply, but they're also not, there's no enforcement mechanism in place. So that's not even an offense if they're not doing it. So they advise, you know, riders about helmets being a requirement. And that's it. And then as far as policy, you know, it's just education is what he talked about as being like the big thing. And then anything else, you know, state legislature should update its laws to treat more powerful e-bikes like motors with a valid license. And then in terms of ordinances, he deferred to the town attorney. So that was the police policy.
I mean, the focus on education is kind of, I mean, that's the idea I had originally, so
Yeah.
I'm glad we're kind of on the aligned, like what is it that we want to teach people about the public? With, of course, will come from the perspective of encouraging alternative forms of transportation.
Yeah, cause like I love what you're sort of tasked to do, like as we get into another work stream of like calendaring, you know, we're gonna have the active, like, all right, there's the window of like, what is it, May to June, with the schools at least, where kids would be out, you know, riding bikes potentially, hopefully, you know, like, so what can we do leading into that? You know, what can we put in place leading into that where we can either get into the schools and talk about these things and, you know, depending on the school, if it's an elementary school versus a middle school, like, you know, begin to talk about e-bikes and
Talking about with parents is probably,
yeah, that's important too.
and that EV expo might be a good place to also kind of set up a table and
Sure.
educate people. You'd probably get a lot of people. This is about 20 seconds, but I don't know if you can see it. You'll definitely hear it. My daughter graduated from college last spring. Her high school friend came to visit from a nearby college on his electric bike, and he gave her an opportunity to ride. And this is what happened.
This is bad.
Can you hear?
Oh, look at her go, look at her go! Wait, is this your first oh my god!
Did she jump and she ran into your table?
I think it was into a bike rack, actually.
Yeah, you're learning.
She was trying to park it.
It's a little hot on the head.
Trying to.
Anyway.
The days of the Segway,
Oh, yeah.
take off, you know, cause you have a
Oh,
tendency to
yeah.
lean back and you'd even go faster, so.
Yeah, she,
So that was enforcement. The other thing I did is I talked to the town about the bird scooter pilot. I was able to talk with Mark Barnard, who's the Fairfield community, do people know him?
Done so much. I'm so impressed, just
Dude,
saying.
this has been a lot of fun. So like, this is fascinating. So we'll make sure this link is available to everyone. It's in
Oh, awesome.
Tanya's tracker. But like this, I got the bird scooter, the pilot report,
Wow.
which is amazing, like, cause it talks about like what some of the challenges were. The statistics are great, like when it started, the number of rides, miles traveled, like this is amazing stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then this is really cool, like this was the operating zone for the scooters, and they're all GPS enabled, so if you tried to leave the zone, it would just like cut out. And then this is sort of like the ridership.
Wait, why is it going down?
It's going down for state seasonality, yeah.
I didn't see that.
And then also observations, just kind of like what the problems were. And a lot of this came down to, from Mark's perspective, that like they had a foreman, like this is, what do they call it? Like I want to call it uncaged. It's not, but like undocked, that's it. So like these were undocked scooters.
Yeah, my friend lives by the university, like right there.
Oh, yeah, so
It's
that's
like
it.
in their lawn.
Well, because
Yeah, they parked wherever they wanted.
Well,
yeah.
so the thing too about that, specifically, Sarah, is like the universities didn't want them on campus for liability reasons. So that's why your friend's lawn became the parking lot. But like when they had a
So
good
sad.
foreman, and so like with an undocked thing, because each of these is GPS enabled, like a foreman would go at the end of the day and collect them and bring them back to central areas. That foreman quit, and there was another guy that wasn't good, and that's when the complaints started to really
Interesting.
happen. So overall, like the conversation was great. There are tons of really good resources in this document now, along with my notes from talking to Mark. There weren't a lot of incidents, except a rider crashed into a car without the D, and Bird didn't provide Fairfield PD with any information on the rider. So it's great. Like, so there are takeaways here. I encourage everyone to read this. And then lastly, I talked with the New Haven Coalition of Active Transportation, or at least I emailed with them, and they're happy to talk with us about any e-bike, e-scooter type things, like to join the committee or whatever. So, I guess the question now becomes, going back to, the goals. I appreciate the feedback there, and to your point, Anya, too, this might have been like way overkill, but if there's some way that we can, use this,
Yes, exactly.
either for to help educate, because now we have information about scooters and other stuff, let's put this to use in some way.
I guess we have to have a policy before we develop an education program, because what are we trying to?
They don't have to.
I don't think-
They just have
I think we have a view.
Well,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
One reality is a lot of the information is that your kid can do crazy crap and nothing's gonna happen to him.
Well, legally,
Yeah.
but we can
Well,
still.
Why, we can encourage you to wear a helmet or everything else, but and he's, but if someone says, well, can my kid get a ticket? No. Can my kid be stopped? No.
Yeah, believe me, I
Yeah,
didn't
we can
share
say
any of
we-
this with my own kid.
Yeah, no,
I was gonna tell them.
But
have to focus
but
on it.
Alex has all this information, and it shows that there's such a wide range, right? And so we could say as the town's bike and ped committee, we would advocate for people selecting ones that fall into this category, or
We feel like are
And-
safer.
and these-
That's advice for
these
parents.
are-
It might be like age appropriate.
and these are the ones that are age appropriate, or whatever,
Yeah.
I love that.
And also using it, I think, as a resource to say this is why we're advocating for these protected bike lanes, right? And then you get e-bikes out of the middle of the road and into the bike lane.
This is the reality is
Right.
that there's a piece of information that's missing from, this whole bird scooter thing, which is like, okay, let's say that the range wasn't restrictive and the zone wasn't this big. Like, how far would someone travel on one of the scooters? Like, we live up by the eastern border and my kid rides his e-bike to prep, every day, unless it's like 15 degrees out.
That's impressive.
And he used to bike, before I made the choice of getting him an e-bike.
The e-bike is a bike. What do you mean?
It's not, it's a like a, yeah, it's a bike, but it also
pedals.
it had pedals, but
But
he
is that-
doesn't have to pedal.
Oh, yes, so it's a class 2.
Yes, it's
What I
class
see.
2.
Okay, mine is a class 2.
You're quick on the pick.
Yes, he's very quick on the pickup. But yeah, so the things are gonna expand. The police department is already seeing more growth and as these things become cheaper and cheaper, the range that kids are gonna be riding this is gonna expand, which means we do need safer infrastructure for them to ride. Like, my kid will occasionally ride on Black Rock from Hi-Ho up. I'm like, do not do that.
No.
Like, I put reflective tape. I'm like, you have to put this on your bike. Like, it's just,
I
so,
really
I have a
like,
kid who goes running at night. I'm like, you have to wear reflective. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's.
she's wearing dark clothes at night. Like,
My
And
husband
people
looks
don't
like a highlighter
expect
when
it
he
even,
runs,
you
so
know,
I
all
can
you need is me to
pass you
drive.
some.
so I'm very much appreciate.
Yeah, that's great.
I really like the perspective, like, how can we tailor this for parents to help them ride
Yes.
their bikes, to help them
Yeah.
give advice to their kids,
That's awesome.
to put reflective tape on it.
And it's something that we
Yeah.
could actually put on like PTA
Yeah.
website,
Oh,
like
yeah, we
this
can
is-
share on school
yeah.
newsletters, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, ideally, yeah, like, how can we condense, like, maybe the final outcome is like a 1-page or even less, like something that's really short and readable, advice for.
yeah, that's it. It involves tables. Like, I like that idea of having the tables, age appropriate, bikes, and then, e-bikes happen from 14 to 6, column 1, you're this old, this is what you can ride, you're this old.
Yeah.
And then safety, the third column could be safety precautions, put reflective tape on the frame for night, make sure it has reflectors, and if we can feel good about that, and then what are the other resources we'd need to involve before we can hand that to the school? Is it the town attorney,
That's what I was just gonna suggest.
Yeah.
I mean, when those bird scooters were around, almost all the conversations that in, my little circle, everyone started talking about liability.
Yeah, okay, so we, whatever we do, we need to involve
There might be, I mean, I don't know if this exists, but it seems to me that, the higher up you go, you should have a driver's license.
Yeah, but-
But maybe there's some sort of pre-driving driver's license that, is good enough for an e-bike, but that your kid can't go out on this until they've taken
Almost like a permit,
some sort of something, even if there isn't officially a permit, but you could say, this doesn't require a permit, but for your child's safety, we recommend they do X, Y, and Z. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, right.
know.
No, I totally get it. And then you can have a sticker on your bike that, certifies you or
Yeah.
something to that effect.
Yeah.
So that the police can give you a real pat on the back when they.
If you don't mind, I did look up MMUCC, Model Minimum Uniform Crash Criteria. And that's kind of what, I think it's the form that they're supposed to fill out for all the crash data.
Okay.
That eventually goes to the state or the crash repository.
Got it, okay.
And so what I think you were saying is that they don't report these,
Yes.
I would imagine unless there's an injury or something really serious, they may have to, or if it was with a car.
Right,
they would.
yeah.
But if it was off the road or their own, or they spilled and whatever, they're not gonna report it. So
Perfect.
I think
No,
that's
thanks
what that
for-
came
for
from.
sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
Well, this is great in the sense getting the feedback, cause I like the output, the output being let's come up with something that we can, a point of view that we can share with parents, PTAs, et cetera, using whatever we've learned here.
Yeah, so that EV fair might be one place, parent,
Yeah, the
PTA
PTAs,
moms of Fairfield, or,
Mhm.
there are a variety of the library.
our social media when, you know.
Once
all
we
of
get that
stuff.
Yeah, Bill can post it on, one of his newsletters.
All right, so we'll leave that. The other thing that the other work stream was like a calendar, which I think I confused some people with this format, but I wanted to put together at least a place where we could you know, just like log events, either as ideas or real events. I know things, I've heard stuff, people talk about Earth Day event, you know, the bike bus is, you know, like we can put them in certain months and then plan for them. So I broke this up across the top by month. And then, you know, and then for the different rows, like, all right, what is the goal? If there's an overarching goal for a given month, you know, so like, for instance, March and April may be awareness campaigns because like May is like a riding season or people are more outdoors at that point. So that's the intention of this sort of like top row. Then ideas are like, what do we want to consider planning for each of these categories in that month? And there may be nothing or there may be something, bicycle, you know, pedestrian, other. Organizations, channels, like, are there any organizations that we want to include? You know, you mentioned the EV fair as a for instance, so you would put that, you know, kind of like here. Are there any other channels? Our own social media channel, like the PTA or Board of Education, whatever. So there's just room for that. And then events, this is like, are there any existing events that we consistently host? We'd fill those in there and, you know, any new events. And so that's the goal. I don't know if people have comments on that.
One of the new events might be, you guys might know that, is Sarah Roy's doing the Transportation Nerd Fest or something.
already
So-
plugged
Was that in January?
One bill?
I'm not sure, cause it's a Sunday. If I'm, I'll be honest with you, if it's low keyed, I might show
Well,
up.
this is our,
Publicizing, yeah.
yeah, this is sort of like for
My
our
son, I
Yeah.
can't. But if he's like at a friend's house and my wife's whatever, then I might show him 50-50.
So do people have like, do people get it at least and?
Yeah. I think it's great, but you may wanna just insert comments so that if someone's looking at it, they know. Like just what, like, you know how you just gave us the tour? So if someone's looking at, it, they will follow. You know, just some sort of.
Sure, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I meant to try and like, I didn't, like filling one in will be helpful.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I'll take a first stab going through just what I know, cause I've been trying
Okay.
to find a good way to see it.
Yeah,
Cause it's also like we get to May and it's bike awareness month and it's just like, okay, what are we doing? It's like halfway through May, and so like, I'd like to try and just like use it and kind of see.
yeah, and then you'll have comments.
Yeah.
Isn't it easier in like a spreadsheet? Just like put it in,
I
I feel like this kind of puts a lot of things in one cell, and if we can like spread it out. into-
Also, who are you trying to, if you don't mind, is it like internally
It's
or is it for the
yeah.
public?
No, it's for
Oh,
us.
okay. Oh, all right.
Just cause the one thing I wanted to make sure is that we can see, like, some things will be progressive, like with the seasons and like, it'll make sense to do one thing in this month, so I'm definitely not opposed to a spreadsheet. I just find I find limitations too, like, I don't know. Spreadsheets are good for certain things. This might not be the format, but obviously it would fit in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Cause it's mostly cell-based.
Whatever works, just an idea. Whatever is easiest for you, really.
I don't know if it's easy. If you start filling it out, Sarah, and you were like, this is ridiculous.
Sometimes I do feel like sometimes with Excel sheets with this, and then you're inserting rows a whole bunch of times, and then I worry
Then
about like
you're-
the formatting,
yeah.
yeah. So I'll try it like this to fill in what I know we're looking forward for, and then we'll see how it goes.
Okay. And then at some point we have to like, you know, and maybe it's an exercise that we first do individually, like people look at the sheet, they fill in ideas, and then we come together and, you know, start to like collectively look at what's in there and brainstorm around that so that there's some foundation. I don't know if people have thoughts on that.
I mean, I could see us checking in on this, you know, at our monthly meeting, be like, okay, what's coming up? What's the status and the thing?
And like fueling the agenda too.
Hmm?
Like fueling agenda items, right? Like,
Yeah, this could feed into the agenda for sure, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so this is the format. I don't know if people have any also just like generally. You know, I don't know how much in the past we as a committee have done and like how much more, you know, maybe at some point we also have to define, or maybe it's defined already, but like what some of the goals of our events would be. You know, like whether it's kind of like bringing the community together, like awareness is an obvious one that we've talked about, awareness and education, but then there's like, and we've talked about, you know, schools and bike bus and stuff, but like, what are some of the other charters, you know, the charter of what we want to do as a committee with events?
I think that's a good point.
And I don't know, have you done any work around that?
No, I mean, I don't think so, Anya,
Well, what kind of purpose of our events?
other than like awareness. Like, if you think like a community bike ride or something, or an open street idea, like those, you know, are more community focused, right? And like bringing people together, like-minded people.
It also, it is a community building event and
Right.
it also highlights the value of streets that are
Yeah.
safe.
But building connections with other people too, like outside, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot too, is like, how do you get people showing up to public meetings in support of some of these changes too, right? And like having like a community to pull from and to make sure that they're aware about things and to come out to speak in support of changes coming down the pike too. So it's not just the same 8 people.
So what was the first, how did you kick that off? Do you remember? I like that. It's like, so there is community building, but you said it a different way. I meant to capture it.
It's like building,
Like a
like
network.
building relationships or a network, yeah. That's great. Awesome. Good with this for now?
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good with this for now. If you wanna take and
Yeah.
feel free, I'm like to collaborate with me on
Yeah.
this as well, like that would be great.
Yeah.
And with all of this stuff, I just wanna put it out there, like I would love to, you know, like I will make time for this, so
Okay.
whatever it is, whatever the work stream or whatever, like I wanna, you know, like so don't hesitate to reach out to me about any of this stuff.
Should we find a time to talk about? I kind of feel, I mean, no, we can do it by email to figure out.
Oh, find out the
Yeah,
time.
well,
Should we
Bill-
close the meeting?
Yeah, Bill, do you have any?
Yeah, I have some
Since you're
updates,
hanging out
thanks,
here.
yeah, appreciate that.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Just a couple of updates. Well, first, to pass on the word, the RFP for the SS4A is out to bid.
Okay.
It's, Bill signed it, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wait, hold on,
Oh.
stop, I'm behind in my notes, I gotta be able to, I'm taking notes today. Hold on, engineering.
Yep, all right, I'll slow.
What is the RFP?
Sorry, I forgot the
Request for proposal.
No, I'm sorry, what is the RFP for? I'm sorry.
Oh, Safe Streets for All, the grant that the town.
Okay, got it.
Received.
This is a big accomplishment,
Yeah.
Bill.
Yep, so,
Very exciting.
yep, so that's out to bid. The agreement has been with the FHWA. We went through, I think, the 4th iteration, but now that I believe is done. And so that is being reviewed by the feds, and so we're hoping at about the same time we sign the contract, and then we can hire or at least interview the firms, and then, select one. If you know of any firms, feel free, you can either contact them, or if you think of one that might be interested, let me know. I know there was a
You have
task
a
force,
list of
yeah, that
firms,
had,
right? Okay.
yeah.
I can reel off some names right away.
Yeah, sure, if you wanna do it now, or.
Nelson Nygaard, Sam Schwartz,
Yep,
HI.
Yep, those, the last two I know have been, cause we had them, but Nelson, what was his?
Nelson backslash Nygaard, Nygard. I can't remember if it's one A.
Okay, all right, like a Swedish would be double A, okay, or something like that, okay.
I should know the answer to
Well,
that.
I could probably look that up. It's just that, and then this way, what purchasing will do is they'll send out saying, hey, there might be a request for proposal you might be interested in, and then that gets them to look on the internet.
Bucker's Fish and Jacques Martin. I don't know how much work they do in Connecticut, but I think, but they're land use, zoning, transportation, like old fashioned planning consulting firm.
All right, well, yeah, that's good. As I said, hopefully we don't get 20 of them, but if we can get a solid 5 or 6 and some that we know, and maybe pick 1 or 2 that look impressive that we haven't worked with before, and then pick the top 2 or 3 and then interview them and see what we have. If you were to go to the RFP, there was a task force, and I'm gonna say about 80% of that was used. I had to change some of the language. Some of the things like a demonstration project, we didn't get the grant for that, so we have to wait. But in the RFP, we still say, and as I said, this was going back and forth with the iteration, that perhaps they could have concepts, or they could kind of give us a little roadmap to do that. But we just can't do the actual demonstration project under the grant. The day after the grant's over, we could do it, you know what I mean? So,
What's the funding for the Safe Streets?
it's a federal highway.
The dollar amount.
350,000, and then there was a 20% share. So whether that's strictly all funding, or whether it's in-kind labors or personnel services, we're figuring probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, it's
it's labor, so in other words, once the agreement is in place, like if we get the agreement before we do the interviews, well, then we can, that was 3 hours to perform the interviews, we can keep track of that and use that as the town share. But like writing the RFP, we couldn't do that because the agreement hasn't, they're very strict about that. And so we couldn't do that. We were it was delayed a little bit because we wanted to make sure that we were really at least close to
Is
it.
there an MWBE requirement?
Yes and no. We had put one in there, but then just getting a comment from FHWA, we don't have to have that in there. It can be encouraged, but then the way they say it they have a specific federal language saying that you're supposed to reach out to this, or if you're looking at, say, data collection, you should at least investigate and kind of document that. So, yeah.
Required.
Right, yeah. So, but they may have to demonstrate that they've at least reached out, to them. So that's that, and it's online, if you go to purchasing and then items out to bid or something like that, RFP for SS4A, you can read it about it. I did throw it by, if you know, Jeff Randolph and Sarah Roy, at least they had some company. No, well, we have some newer members.
I'm just kidding, sorry.
And then South Benson, the survey is now complete. And so the consultant, we just put out the rec for them to start the design using the engineering department concepts. And then once we get, this is for South Benson Road.
Okay, so now, you did the concepts, they're gonna be doing the detailed design. Okay.
Yep, and then there's 2 areas in particular that we wanted to see what they thought of and get a little bit more detail. One was by the gatehouse, right there, of how you connect the sidewalk and go up and over. Are they better off with 2 lanes or 1, or rather to go around and onto the other side? And then there was an area where there's a steep slope, and what we figured you have to cut that and then put a retaining wall, but we're gonna see what they say on that.
And then is there a timeline on when
I have to look at their schedule on that. I can check on that. I don't know it offhand. My guess is it's probably 4 months, but I'm not sure. Stratfield Road plans are going to the state DOT soon. And when we get the comments back from the state, then most likely we'll, we'll either share them here or go to the public with those as a public informational meeting, which would mean about 30%. So they have at least an idea to show people, but if there was something
How many,
looking into that.
it's not a public hearing, it's just.
No, it's public information meeting, so it's a question answer, or you document the comments of what you have, and then usually the town requirement is at least to address them or answer them. You may not have to satisfy the person who makes the comment, but at least you should at least, respond and at least say, hey, we took a look at this or something like that.
Yeah.
We have a roundabout concept for Fairfield Woods and Stilson.
I
Kind of like
mentioned
a
that.
peanut, a demonstration, sorry, some
No,
of
it's
the
good.
came late. And then the McKinley, we did at least get now 2 consultants.
Awesome.
And I think at the next Board of Selectmen or the one after, we're about to award it to somebody. So that design will start to get started.
Yeah, okay, not consultants.
Yeah, consultants for the design.
Oh,
Consultants for the design.
Right.
Oh, I thought the design was done.
The second phase?
No, for even the first phase, the first time we
To
did, it, we didn't
finalize.
get any. We didn't
Oh,
get
I thought the
anybody.
design was done. I thought. you were
No,
looking for
no,
somebody
we
to
just
implement
that was just the
Oh.
concept and the grant. Now it's for the actual
Oh.
design. Cause
Okay.
that's why the neighborhood was all up in arms, like, we gotta do the survey, find out, I mean, I have an idea for a particular road or two, the east side looked a lot easier than the west side.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, this way, play favorite or whatever, we have them,
So you have 2 consultants bidding to do the
and
design.
then we have now recommended selection, and so once purchasing can finalize that, it will go to the Board of Selectmen.
Great.
It may go
Well, maybe
Wednesday, but I
between the
think,
two.
yeah, but we're gonna make a recommendation.
Is there an update on the Mill Plain Reading Sturgis?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I just approved, that's where I was about 15-20 minutes ago. I just approved the recs for that. So once the purchasing department approves them, then it means basically we give a notice to proceed.
Okay.
For what?
Mill Plain Reading Sturgis survey.
Yeah.
So that's
Mill
just to
Plain
get-
Road, Sturgis Road, and
Right.
Reading Road. The Reading Road, we're just having them do a survey. Because if they start doing design, then that's not eligible because the grant agreement isn't in place for that $1 million Reading Road. But the other 2 don't involve grants at this time, and so therefore we can give them the go ahead right away.
Okay.
And some of these consultants, they kind of know they're getting it, so hopefully they've kind of started a little bit, if you know what I mean, so.
And then Amy can't be here tonight, but was wondering what the villa.
Yeah, we have now reached out twice to the contractor to just have a formal meeting. We know, obviously, especially like next week, 8 degrees or whatever, we're gonna probably end up having to wait. But if there's something they could do, or maybe we set up the cones or do something just to remind people maybe in February or March that it's coming and not that we forgot them, if you know what I mean. So-
And I just had something on that.
Oh, okay. Wow, time does.
The Round Hill, the Round Hill Road sidewalks.
Right.
Tom, I think is gonna try and get you a photo, but he mentioned he noticed right at the Kinney intersection,
Mhm.
the ramp kind of comes down and then it, like if you go across, it just leads to.
Yeah,
the-
cause that's gonna get finished in the spring.
Okay, perfect.
And they'll continue on that, and then we're doing a section on Reed Road,
Awesome.
so, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I had a nasty email from somebody, how could you leave the project like this? And they didn't realize in the winter, you usually shut down, and so I had to explain it, but
Awesome.
they did say thank you, so they at least turned a frown into a smile.
Cool. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Alright.
Yep, thanks.
Any other new business? Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Right.